is the best action camera out, and it just got better, the DJI Action 5 Pro. I've used tons of action cameras in the real world scenarios, and for its price you can't beat it. We are going to compare it to its predecessor, see what's changed, and to note, this is a non-sponsored review. DJI did send this camera early to me to make Instagram content. Keyword Instagram content. My YouTube is absolutely tiny. I don't even think DJI knows that I post YouTube videos, so let's get into it. First up, let's talk video. The Action 5 is a beast. It shoots amazing 4K 10-bit D-Log-M videos, which give you lots of dynamic range to color grade and make your shots look cinematic. There's also a new chip that allows for 4K 120 FPS and 4:3, and if you didn't know, that gives a taller image instead of 16:9, allowing for you to crop for social media a lot easier. It is not as tall as the GoPro sensor, but I've personally found that the difference is marginal, and if you truly want a super wide POV, where you can see like your legs, for example, if you are surfing, you need to actually mount the camera vertically because you'll just lose too much space on side to side. Just have a look at this image and you can see the taller sensor on GoPros doesn't give you that much extra real estate compared to a 4:3 image. Now, there is an elephant in the room, and that is the fact that the 1/1.3 inch sensor is the same size as what it was on the Action 4. Apparently, there is some other hardware making the image better, so let's go into a nerdy breakdown and see if there is any difference at all. So jumping into the lab and straight into a low light test, the most obvious thing is that the color reproduction looks a lot better on the new Action 5. On the Action 4, it looked a bit more washed out and kind of like purpley, which just isn't very right. Keep in mind, all these shots were taken with the exact same settings. I used -2 sharpness and also 0 noise reduction. You could have turned it off, but I left it because a lot of users will use that. I'm also shooting 4K 60 D-Log-M to really get the most out the camera, because this is a nerdy breakdown and we want to see the true best potential of the camera. Now, in these low light tests, I do think there is less noise in the Action 5's shots, but it's a little hard to tell and you really need to zoom in these examples. However, once we look at these daytime shots using a high dynamic range setting, the sun's out, you can see these shadows, the difference becomes really apparent and there's definitely some more dynamic range in the shadows. Look how noisy the Action 4 is compared to the Action 5, and it's brighter and just straight up less noisy. That being said, the Action 5 could be a little softer, but it is extremely hard to tell. So overall, the Action 5 definitely has an improvement, which is very welcome. I think that's like an extra stop, half a stop in the shadows, which is great. The image quality was already fantastic, so it's hard to improve even further. So any noticeable improvements that I can see easily with my eyes is well appreciated. So it's obvious the image quality on the DJI Action 5 is great, but DJI has practically updated every other part of the action camera experience to make it more convenient, which I do definitely appreciate. Firstly, there is internal storage of 47 gigabytes, making life way more convenient. Never forget an SD card again, or just don't use one. Very handy. Next, the camera can go an extra 2 meters underwater to 20 meters deep, and as a freediver, this is amazing. It is honestly criminal that GoPros can only do 10 meters, then you have to purchase like a separate case. On this note, the DJI Action has already been the best underwater camera, as the colors and the contrast just look great. You can see it on any YouTube comparison, and now there's even a sensor that tells you how deep you are, and when you're diving, you can see how deep you are, and it can begin automatic recording at depth. So for example, 5 meters deep, you can trigger automatic recording, which is crazy. In a practical sense, I like shooting whenever I want, so I'm happy to press start and stop. But if I want a carefree experience, this could also be a cool feature. The camera also has gone from a 1770 mAh battery to a 1950 mAh battery. An extra battery life is always welcome. I can definitely feel the difference. It also has fast charging, which is nice too, and convenience. I think it had that before though. We still have amazing reliability. I have never ever had the Action bug out on me where, oh man, the GoPros are a mess. So many times I've lost shots and it's pissed me off. The cold resistance is also amazing. I literally froze a DJI Action and it started up recording no problem. The screen is even a little bit bigger on the new Action, as the bezels have actually gone smaller, so that's always nice to view your image on a larger screen. The DJI ecosystem is actually a genuine bonus too, because we can connect the DJI mics. Everyone and their dog has one of those these days, and it can just make content creation so much easier for you. Before we get into the negatives, let me show you how I did this cool smoke transition. Firstly, download these smoke overlays off Motion Array. Speaking of Motion Array, they have sponsored this video and they provide thousands of videos templates, music, stock footage, sound effects, and more. Then simply drag the transition on your timeline. I'm using Davinci Resolve, and then I use a 3D keyer to remove the black background, and that's it. Whenever I have an idea and I need an asset I can't make myself, I go straight to Motion Array, and it has helped me tons for so many projects. Templates are also arranged for different editing software, so if you haven't already, hop on it and use my link to get 2 months for free. Now let's talk about the negatives, and honestly the only thing worth mentioning, which isn't actually a problem with the camera, is the lack of a 1-inch sensor. The DJI Pocket 3 is a tiny camera and it has a 1-inch sensor. Maybe they're saving the 1-inch for the Action 6, but I can't really blame them because DJI have updated so many features on the new Action, and the GoPro has continually released the same sensor in the cameras, which is criminal for years. More on that in another video. A bigger general problem is that the whole action camera market is plateauing. You don't really need 8K, and it's kind of pointless when all your social media basically takes 1080p. We can also shoot 120 frames, which is already very slow, so it's definitely interesting to see how action cameras progress. I also had a slight weird experience when diving. My Action showed the diving interface, and for some reason I couldn't change the settings. It could be due to the salt water, but I could change everything else. I don't know, it could be user error, but if anyone has a similar issue, just let me know. You probably don't need to change the settings anyway underwater. Now lastly, let's talk price, and it is crazy that the best action camera really is the cheapest. The Insta360 Ace Pro and GoPros retail for at least $100 more, and the Action 5 starts at $299. If that doesn't sell you, I do not know what will. And there is no way in hell in Australia the GoPros are like $200 more, absolutely no shot. So that is basically it, short and sweet. I may sound like a bit of a car salesman at times, but genuinely, I am sick of GoPros reusing the same tech to the point where the GoPro 13 is a literal highway robbery. It looks the same, uses the same sensor, the videos are the same. It's all a bit fraudulent in my opinion, and I'm even willing to make a separate video on this. Don't get me started, and I'll see you in the next one.